Hi everyone, today Ivan and I will be talking about running continuous integration and delivery of your ML projects on Databricks using our new open source project, CI/CD templates from Databricks Labs. So I'm Michael Stelma, I'm an SA in field engineering team at Databricks. And now I'd like to pass to Ivan so he can introduce himself.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Hi, everyone. My name is Ivan. I'm a solutions architect in EMEA team of Databricks, helping our customers solving toughest data problems with Databricks.
Today, we will be speaking about three following topics. At first, I will give you some background about the challenges that machine learning teams face while implementing robust machine learning pipelines and ensuring their quality. And after that, I will introduce a CI/CD templates project. And finally, I will pass to Ivan. Ivan will show you an end-to-end demo of CI/CD templates project, and he will walk you through creating a new data project, and he will show you how to set up continuous delivery for that project. Okay, let's discuss why do we need one more project around deployments and CI/CD. A lot of organizations are struggling to drive additional revenue and insights out of their models. And the reason for that is that a lot of their models never get to production at all, or are delayed in some stage of ML project lifecycle. The reason for that is that unlike traditional software engineering, where we usually try to decouple code from data and implement traditional tests, in ML, you cannot easily decouple code from data and from model. And this makes it especially difficult to develop. I will give you an example here. You will need a production data set to produce a model, and you rarely have the possibility to work with such a dataset in a CI environment, so basically in the container or virtual machine where your CI tests run. So let me sum it up. To address the mentioned challenges, we will need to develop our models on live customer data while having a possibility to test our code on the live dataset and ensure that our models and code work exactly how we think it must be working. And if there is something wrong with our latest change or commit, we can always revert it back and go back to the last successful commit. So why it's so difficult to implement continuous delivery and continuous integration for machine learning? So let's discuss what challenges machine learning teams face when they try to implement continuous delivery for ML. One of the challenges is that teams are relying oftentimes on traditional continuous integration tools to test machine learning pipelines. This means that the actual tests are running in a virtual machine or a container. This can be challenging because it's not possible to use real-world distributed data sets in such a setup. And this prevents us from testing the pipeline in the real-world scenario. Another issue is that often our models are relying on GPUs. And GPUs are also not available in our containers or virtual machine. To tackle this challenge, teams are turning to distributed and scalable platforms like Databricks to use distributed data sets and complicated models. And this helps a lot while implementing fast prototypes of the data pipelines or machine learning models. But as pipelines and models are getting more and more complex, the need for traditional continuous integration tools arises, and this leaves the teams with the choice either to use traditional tools like IDE with traditional integration tests, traditional CI tools, and basically in this case they will be unable to use real world, like real data during the development and testing, or they can switch to something like Databricks and use notebooks, and that makes integration testing really difficult. We have run into such a scenario during implementation of a couple of internal projects. So what is the solution to the mentioned challenges? I would like to introduce you now, so I would like to introduce CI/CD templates project that can help you tackle those challenges. This project helps you to bootstrap your new data application or new ML application from scratch. And it will, so it's a template that will help to create you a to create you a new project. And after that, you will be able just to fill it out with the code, with the logic and your models, your data pipelines, and then you can just push it to GitHub or any other Git repository and configure, for example, GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps, and in kind of like 10 minutes, get your CI running. So get your integration tests running on Databricks. And last but not least, it's really easy to develop using IDE if you're using CI/CD templates. Like you can run your pipelines directly from your IDE on Databricks and use your real-world data sets, access the same environment that is used during the production. Okay, now let's discuss how you can set up a new project in easy 5 steps. So at first, you should create a new content environment, install cookie cutter and pass modules, and then you can just type cookie cutter https github.com Databricks Labs CI/CD templates, and this will bootstrap the project. So you will need to answer a couple of really easy questions. And after that, you will get the project created from the template. After that, you can create a new GitHub repository and configure the secrets. And you will just need 2 secrets, Databricks host and Databricks token. Those secrets will allow us to understand and connect to the workspace, Databricks workspace you would like to use. And then you can just push all the code and all your changes to your GitHub repository, and that's basically it. After you have pushed your code, you will see that the CI pipeline was automatically run. The template already contains one example job and a couple of example tests that will be automatically run. And you can, of course, change it and add your new real pipelines and, of course, add the tests that will test your pipelines. Let's discuss now the project structure. So we have an assumption that you will code all your pipelines, you will place your logic, your models in a Python package. And this Python package will be created for you. It will have the same name as the project itself. And for example, now you see that we have there is a job sub package where you see another a sub package sample. So it's our sample job. And within the sub package submodule, you see entry point Python file. So within this file, you can implement your code and implement the logic of your pipeline. That's going to be the file that will be run by Spark on Databricks when you run this pipeline on Databricks. There is another really important folder called conf, where you can see deployment.json. That's a file where you can configure all your jobs. For example, you can configure the configuration, like cluster configuration, how many nodes you would like to have for that job, how many, let's say, what node types, what sort of nodes you would like to have, and you can also define different environments. Ivan will show you in a more detail how this file looks like and what is the its content. And there are a couple of other files. For example, there is a setup.py, so the file where our package is configured, and there is a test folder where you can see there is a subfolder for integration tests and for the local unit tests. And of course, there is our view, so our VHL package, which where all the, let's say, glue code and all the functionality that will run the jobs on Databricks is implemented. So let's now discuss how all this runs. So let's say what happens when you push your new code, push the new commit to Git, and how those commits will be tested on Databricks. So In the background, we have already two pipelines that will be running in the case of just a simple push or a new release creation on GitHub. And basically, they run the local unit tests, they package the code in the VHL package, and they deploy this code to Databricks. So by deploying the code to Databricks, what happens actually, we are logging everything to MLflow experiment, and every change will be logged as a new run, and it will contain all the configurations and the resources that your job requires, and all the and when you run your job, it will also be logged to MLflow. And now I'd like to tell you a couple of words about our new version. So a couple of days ago, we have published the new version of CI/CD templates, and now this version is powered by the DBX utility. So what you can do now as opposed to the previous version, and why DBX is really important. With the DBX, you can customize your project structure. I have shown you the project structure that is the default one, and that is something that templates uses right now. But with DBX, you can do way more. With DBX, you can use your own custom structure, and you can just supply all the information to DBX. For example, where is your Python entry point? What files you would like to deploy? So what files are needed to run your job, and what dependencies you have, and DBX will take care of deployment and running this job. So now we don't require you to follow our view on the project structure. You can use your own one, and then you can just supply all those parameters to DBX, and then you can implement your own CI pipelines around this. Another thing is that now it's really easy to start using new CI tools. Right now we support GitHub Actions and Azure DevOps, but there are way more different CI tools around. So guys, feel free to use your tools of choice with DBX, and you can create new templates, or you can file PR to our project and add support for new CI tools. So all the contributions and PRs are really welcome. And the last thing that is really important for everybody who really loves developing in IDE is that with DBX, it's really easy to develop in IDE. So you can use DBX to run your changes and run your pipelines directly from IDE. So how does it look like? You can create a custom run configuration within your IDE, and you can just run DBX that will package all your changes as a wheel and deploy it automatically to Databricks and run it there. And you will just see in the console the results. So now let's discuss in more detail the standard flows that CI/CD template already has. So the first one is the push flow. This flow will be automatically run when you push some new changes to the master branch. So when you push your changes, what happens then? We will at first install all the dependencies that we'll need, like install Python and install the dependencies that we need for running our build and unit tests. And after that, we will run our local unit tests. If the unit tests were successful, then we will build the wheel, and we will deploy it to Databricks workspace, and then we will run our integration tests on Databricks. And if our integration tests on Databricks were successful, then we will mark our commit as a successful commit, like with a green check mark. And now let's think that we would like to, let's say we're ready with our development. Now we would like to release the jobs, or we would like to bring our jobs to production, to our production workspace. For that, we have a release flow. So if you create a new release on GitHub, the release flow will automatically be run, and it looks like it's really similar to the previous one, but there is one difference. After running the integration tests, if our integration tests are successful, we will create the production jobs on Databricks as the jobs. So all the jobs you have configured will be created or updated in your Databricks workspace, and they will be run automatically according to the scheduler that you have defined. And now I would like to pass to Ivan. He will show you a demo. Let's say he will show you CI/CD templates and DBX and in action, and you will see how you can really easily set up a new project and set up the CI pipelines for this project.
Okay. Hi everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. In this short demo, I would like to show how the CI/CD templates project could be used to quick start, create a new repository, and fill it with ready-to-use CI/CD pipeline. So first of all, here is my repository. I've just created it. Most important thing to mention is that you need to set up secrets. So you shall provide Databricks host and Databricks token. This is your personal access token, for example. And then basically from the repository perspective, you're good to go. Next step would be to install a couple of dependent libraries. Right now, we need to install cookie cutter and path. They're already installed in my environment. The second step would be to create a new cookie cutter project, cookie cutter based project. We are using CI/CD templates from GitHub straight away. Let's call the project CI/CD demo v2. I will use Azure Cloud for demo. We of course support AWS as well, and I will use GitHub Actions as a CI/CD tool. I have a ready-to-use profile with all configurations provided, and we're good to go. So here is the created repository. It follows the structure described by Michael. What I will do straight away is to add a remote branch. So it's already initialized. The only thing I need to do is to add a remote branch, switch to this branch. Ooh, okay. Let me create an initial commit. Push it. Okay, and then I will add a remote origin. It already exists. Okay, good. Then I will switch to the new branch and push everything into it. This push will trigger the on-push action. So if we'll take a look on the content now, we'll see that everything is coming from the initial commit, and it will trigger the test, shall trigger the test pipeline. Just give it a second. Yep, here it is. Here is the initial pipeline. It will perform all of the necessary steps to test your code. So in this pipeline, we include unit tests, we include integration tests, and so on and so on. Let's take a look on the code structure. So basically here is how our directory looks like, exactly how Michael has described. The most important part from the CI/CD perspective is this on-push section. Basically, it will execute the test pipeline based on your project. Let's take a look on this shortly. So it will basically do the following: install all of the dependencies needed for this pipeline to run. Second step is to launch local integration tests, then configure the profile based on the secrets we have described in our GitHub, and then finally deploy the integration test and execute the integration test. And the question here is where this deployment definition comes from. It's very straightforward. Here is in the conf directory, you will see the deployment.json file. And this file basically describes the deployment structure, which shall be used here. So for example, for the integration test, we are using quite a relatively small cluster. The libraries section will be filled by build project automatically, and all locally referenced files, for example, this one, will be transformed into, will be uploaded to the BFS, and in the job definition, they will be transformed. So from this perspective, this is how it looks, this is how it works. And then in the CI/CD pipeline, basically this deploy will exactly deploy this job. And after to launch this job using the DBX CLI tool, this tool has a lot of functionality. So basically here we show only a couple of it. It's about like deploy and launch. You can also configure multiple environments, and you can execute your code on an interactive cluster if needed. For now, let's take a look on our CI/CD pipeline. So basically, as we can see, the job was deployed to Databricks Workspace, and now it starts the run, basically waiting for the cluster. As you can see, it reports you the status, and we have given this parameter trace. So this trace parameter traces the job until the end, and if job fails, it will also report an error to the CI/CD pipeline as well. Let's take a look on what's happening in the on the workspace side. Here we can see, among a big list of jobs we have in our demo environment, here we can see this job, exactly this one, which is efficiently running. Let's click on that. And we will basically see that this job has been triggered already, because this is what DBX launch does. And before that, the job was deployed. And as we can see, it has provided the VHL file with our project, and entry point file, or the task file, or Python task file directly in the job configuration. Yep. So basically, this is the way how we can launch integrational testing pipelines. But not only that, we actually can also do this for our release pipelines. For example, the release pipeline does the same set of steps. So it creates the Python environment, configures all of the dependencies for you. Then it launches the integration tests. Then it performs the deployment of integration test, it runs the integration test on Databricks, and then finally it deploys the new job. And then you are the person who decides whether to run the job and how to execute this. The most important part of the whole process is, of course, the deployment JSON file. So basically, as you can see, per each environment, this is environment name. You can define a list of jobs or no jobs, but that makes no sense, basically. And inside every job, we are compliant with Databricks Jobs API. So the way how you define the job shall be compliant with Databricks Jobs API, except two things. So first of all, any local file reference could be just reference to the root of the project, because when we perform DBX deploy, it will automatically upload these files to the BFS and reference these files correctly. And second thing, regarding libraries section, you can add your own libraries, any of them, but also during the deployment, you can provide requirements file. And all requirements from the requirements file will be added to the libraries section as well. And we will also automatically add the package from dist when you perform Python setup.py. You don't need to do this manually, because we do that for you. this behavior could be disabled, but in general, the configuration of this VHL file, which comes when you build your Python package, will be also automatically added to the libraries section. Yep. Now we can see the status of our job here directly. Seems like the cluster is still starting, which is completely okay. Important thing to mention is where actually my files are stored. So here is this very long directory name. Can we understand where the files are physically stored? Actually, yes, we can, because every environment has its correlated DBX project. So this one. And this is basically an MLflow experiment with associated with it artifact location. And per each experiment, we have basically deployment runs and launch runs, so-called. And if we'll click and take a look on the deployment run, we will actually find out everything related to it. So first of all, here is our entry point file. Secondly, here is our VHL file with the project. And finally, here is the DBX deployment JSON. This is the file which maps the job name to the job ID automatically for you. And of course, you can see the job status directly in your Databricks UI, which gives you the way to understand what's happening with the job itself. Yep, as we can see, the job is currently running and it has succeeded. As the job has succeeded, the same thing shall happen with the CI/CD pipeline. Yep, exactly. So once again, where we are, it's CI/CD templates. It's an open project, opened by Databricks Labs. I'm one of the developers of this project, and I would be happy to help any users of it. And of course, we have quite sophisticated documentation here if you're looking for a bigger reference and you're looking for more support about how to use CI/CD templates. And that's it. Thanks a lot for listening to my story, and see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ivan. And now, after the demo, I'd like to make a short summary. So during this presentation, you have at first we have discussed the challenges that different teams face while implementing continuous delivery for ML pipelines. And after that, I have introduced Databricks Labs CI/CD templates project that can help you tackle those challenges. And Ivan has shown you a demo where he has created the new project, and then, like in just 10 minutes, implemented the CI/CD pipelines and for this project, and shown you how to run integration tests on Databricks. So feel free to contribute to this project. If there are some, if there is some issues with it, feel free to open a new issues or fix the bugs and send us the PRs. Thank you everybody for your attention.